Hi everyone, I'm Jen Lucas, Managing Editor for the Knitting Circle, and I want to welcome you to today's live event. In this event today, I'm going to be teaching you how to make the delightfully darling baby hat. I have a picture of the pattern here, and it's this adorable baby hat that you can knit in a wide variety of sizes. So I started with preemie extra small and going all the way up to toddler. And I'll also talk about some ways that you can adjust the pattern, knit it in a different yarn if you want, etc. We'll get to all of that as we go through the pattern. So if you haven't done so already, I want to remind you to download the pattern wherever you're watching it today. You can find a link in the description where you're watching, and you can also use the QR code that's popped up on the screen. That QR code will take you right to the page to download the pattern. So you can just take a picture of that with your phone, and you'll have the pattern ready to go. So don't forget to download it so you can follow along as we're working on it, and then knit one for yourself later. And I also wanted to remind everybody, don't forget to say hello in the chat box or comments wherever you're watching. If you're watching on our website, the chat box is below the video where you're watching it. You'll see like a great big rectangle where you can go ahead and say hello. Let us know where you're watching from. If you do any kind of knitting for babies or little kids, we'd love to hear about it. This is one of those projects I think that could be really good if you're somebody that knits hats to donate to different charities. So, there's a lot of different charities that will take preemie hats or even baby hats, things like that. So this would be a great one for that too, again, because it's written for so many sizes. So first, let's talk about what materials we're going to need. So to start, you're going to need some yarn, of course. And here I used a bulky weight yarn. And this bulky weight yarn here, it's just a smooth acrylic yarn. And again, if you're going to make this to donate, just make sure that you are following, wherever you're donating it to. They sometimes have rules that you need to follow as far as what type of yarn to use. But here I'm using just 100% acrylic bulky weight yarn. And it's a smooth one, which will show off our pattern just great. So depending on the size, you're going to need between 15 yards and 70 yards. So 15 yards would just be for that preemie extra small size, up to 70 yards for the toddler size. In addition to that, you're going to need two different kinds of knitting needles. You're going to need a US size 9 and also a US size 10.5. Here I just have grabbed some of my longer circular knitting needles. But you can knit this using whatever small circumference knitting style that you like. I'm going to do magic loop here because I think it's just easier to show on camera, and also it is my preferred method for knitting in the round. But you can use double pointed needles. You can use two circulars. Some of the larger sizes, you can use a 16-inch circular and then go down to the double points at the end if you want to. It's really up to you. Again, I like to do magic loop just because you don't have to switch to double pointed needles when the circumference gets too small, because your magic loop method will always accommodate the circumference of your hat. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate today. But of course, if you have any questions about knitting in the round, you can feel free to drop those into the chat as well. And we do have quite a few videos on our website about knitting in the round. I've done blog posts about knitting in the round. So there's lots of options. If you want to learn a new way to knit in the round, be sure to check out some of those videos on our website, theknittingcircle.com. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on actually knitting this pattern. So to begin, we are going to cast on our, we'll cast on our number of stitches that we need. And so for this one, I'm just going to do that preemie extra small size. And we are going to do a cast on of 24 stitches. So I'm going to make my slip knot and place it on the needle. And then we will cast on our 24 stitches. So that counts as 1. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. There we go. So here I have cast on using the smaller knitting needle. So this would be where you would be using that US size 9 or whatever size you need for the gauge for the pattern. So depending on your size, you're going to cast on anywhere from 24 to 54 stitches. What you'll notice is that they're all a multiple of 6. So here I have 24 for that preemie extra small size. So let's split it in half to do the magic loop. 2, 5, 7, 10, and 12. And then I'm going to just pull the cord out like this. And now we have half of our stitches on the front needle and half of our stitches on the back needle. I see that Diana is saying hello from Colorado. Hello. I hope that the weather is nice there. Weather is beautiful here in the Midwest in Illinois where I'm located today. So hopefully you're having some nice weather too. So now that I have my 24 stitches cast on, we're going to go ahead and join in the round. So for magic loop, my working yarn, so that's my yarn that is going to my ball of yarn here, that's on my back needle. So the needle that is furthest away from me. And then I'm going to bring that back needle and pull it and bring it around and insert it into that first stitch because we're going to knit it. So our ribbing round is knit 1, and then we're going to repeat purl 1, knit 2 around until we get to the last 2 stitches. So purl 1, knit 2, purl 1, knit 2, and we'll just keep working that all the way around. So that had a knit 1. I've come to the other side. I'm pulling on that cord. And we'll just continue on. So there's our second knit from our knit 2. And keep working around. We're working that now until the last 2 stitches, and then we're going to end with a purl 1, knit 1. Now you're just going to be repeating that round for the specified number of times in the pattern. And so for this preemie extra small size, we are going to repeat that ribbing round another 3 times. So let's just do it one more time here, just so we can see how it works. Pardon me. So we're just following that same ribbing round, but really here we're just knitting the knits and purling the purls. So if it looks like a knit with the V, we're knitting it. And if we see that purl bump there, then we're going to purl. But again, just following that ribbing round as written in the pattern. Come to the end of the first half of our stitches again, then you flip it over for magic loop, pull on the cord, and keep going on our second half. And now when I am working magic loop, I do have a tendency to not use the stitch marker to mark the beginning of the round because I just tend to use my tail. But let's go ahead and finish off this round and then put a stitch marker in. So depending on how you have your stitches configured, I oftentimes will just have the end of my round be here at the end of my half of the stitches. And in that case, I just take a stitch marker and just put it right in between there. There we go. And then you would just keep working around. And so now at this point, after you have completed the number of rounds specified in the pattern for your size, now we're going to switch to the larger needle. Let me find a larger needle here. So here, I'll just take this one out. I forgot another one. There we go. Okay, so now we have our larger needle here. And so you would have your ribbing rounds all worked. And now we're going to just continue with the pattern, switching to the larger needle. So again, I'm going to do the magic loop method. So all I'm going to do is just start knitting with the new needle. So my right needle will be my new needle, and then my old needle is the left needle. And so the first round of the pattern is we're just knitting all the stitches. So that's easy. We're just going right across. This is the noisy part because we're switching all those needles around here. All right, so we've come to the end of the first half. I'm going to flip it over. And same thing, I'm using still my new needle to start working that first round. So first round was just knit all the stitches. At this point, our original needle is done. We can set that to the side, and we're going to be using that larger needle for the remainder of the pattern. Let me just grab a little more yarn here. So now we're ready to work round 2 of the actual body, or like the actual stitch pattern. And it's a 4-round repeat, but rounds 1, 3, and 4. Excuse me, that's not right. So we worked round 1 of our stitch pattern, which is just knitting all the stitches, and round 2 is the same again. We're just knitting all the stitches. So rounds 1, 2, and 4 are all just knitting. So we're just knitting all the stitches on those rounds. It's only going to be on round 3 of the stitch pattern where we're going to be doing anything different. So I'm just finishing off round 2 here by knitting all of the stitches. And you can see here on this first round, it is a little bit sometimes tight just because from switching the needles, sometimes your stitches are still a little tight on that first round, but then once you've done a couple rounds with the new needle, everything kind of loosens up. But I like switching needles sometimes because I do like it when the ribbing is a little bit smaller and a little bit tighter than the rest of the pattern. So there we go. Okay, so that took care of round 1 and 2. So let's take a look at how to do round 3. So on round 3, we're introducing these little eyelets. And to do that, we're going to knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together all the way around. So we're just going to keep repeating that all the way around. So knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together. Knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together. So this little stitch pattern here is just simply a multiple of 3. And as you know, I said at the beginning, we cast on a multiple of 6 stitches at the beginning, and all of the sizes are a multiple of 6 stitches. When it comes time to do the crown decreases, that's when that multiple of 6 stitches is going to come into play again. And so really this hat pattern, as long as you have cast on a multiple of 6 stitches, you can knit it in just about any size yarn. The only thing that you have to consider is that because I'm using this chunky yarn, I only have, and I'm only writing this up to a toddler size, with the chunky yarn, there's only 6 rounds that we're going to be working for the crown decreases at the end. So if you did want to make this in a worsted weight yarn and cast on a lot more stitches, you can do that, but just keep in mind that you are going to have to do a little bit of figuring out how to do the crown decreases, because you're probably going to want more than 6 rounds for your crown decrease if you're using a smaller yarn. So just something to keep in mind, but that's something, you know, you can kind of fudge it too if you did want to make this out of another yarn. And likewise, if you wanted to make this hat in a larger size, you know, maybe for an adult or something, again, you need that multiple of 6 stitches. You might just need to play around a little bit more with the crown decreases at the end. So I just worked round 4 there, and that was just knitting all the stitches as well. So if we take a little look here, you can see that we've just made these little eyelet holes. It's just a nice little detail. You know, I find even hats that have a little bit of lace in them, they're still pretty warm. I mean, you might not wear this when it's negative, you know, 40-degree wind chill or something like that. But, you know, this is a great hat for kids. And a great little hat for preemies too, if you are somebody that knits for preemie charities. So you would just keep repeating those 4 rounds again for the specified number of times in the pattern. And so it's either you're going to do it 2 times if you're doing the a total of 2 times if you're doing the preemie extra small, like I'm demonstrating here. You might do it a total of 6 times if you're knitting the toddler size hat. Again, it just depends obviously on what size you're making, because you're obviously going to need more length to your hat, the larger the size of hat that you're making. So let's just pretend that we've finished now another repeat of our lace pattern. And now we're going to be ready to do our crown decreases. So to do our crown decreases, we're still staying on that larger needle. Again, we're using that for the whole rest of the project. Our first crown decrease round is knit 4, knit 2 together, and then knit 4, knit 2 together. And you're just going to work that all the way around. Okay. And now once that's done, the next round, round 2, we're going to knit all the stitches. All right, and we're coming to the second half of that round 2 on the crown decreases, and we're knitting all the stitches. And now we're ready for round 3, which is going to be another decrease round. Now, on this decrease round, round number 3, we're actually going to be continuing our little lace pattern here while also doing decreases. So on round 3, we're going to be doing a knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together twice. And so what is happening there is we have our yarn over and knit 2 together like we did on our actual stitch pattern. And so the yarn over and the knit 2 together cancel each other out, right? The stitch count stays the same because we add 1 with the yarn over, but then we decrease immediately 1 by doing the knit 2 together. But we're doing a knit 2 together twice here. So we're doing the lace, but then we're also introducing extra knit 2 togethers in here to further decrease our little hat. So again, you're going to knit 1, yarn over, and then knit 2 together twice. So you're just going to knit 2 together and then knit 2 together again. And that's all there is to that. Knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together twice. Come to the other side of our hat here. Knit 1, yarn over, and knit 2 together twice. There's 1 knit 2 together. And there's another knit 2 together. And then knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together twice. And so you can see here, we have another yarn over here. So we're just continuing that stitch pattern up into the crown a little bit, which is something I really like to do versus just stopping the stitch pattern and just having it go all the stockinette stitch where you just have, you know, all just knit stitches. You don't have any of those little eyelets in there. I just thought it was nice to introduce the eyelets into one more round during the crown decreases, just so that the hat flows a little bit better, in my opinion. So that takes care of row 3. And now, excuse me, round 3. And now we're on to round 4, which is knit all the stitches. So again, we're just working all the way around, knitting all those stitches as we come to them. Okay, so now we just have 2 more rounds to do for the top of our hat. And the next 2 rounds, we're just knitting 2 together all the way around, and we're doing that for 2 rounds. So simply, I'm just going into the next 2 stitches as if to knit 2 together and knitting those 2 together. And I'm just doing that all the way around. That takes care of 1 round. Now that's round 5. And now for round 6, we're just knitting 2 together all the way around again. And again, my little swatch, little sample here is much shorter than what yours will be, because even in that preemie extra small size, you'll be doing some additional rounds here that I didn't demonstrate, but it's all just repeating the same things over and over again. Okay, so once you get to the end of round 6, for the preemie extra small size, you have 4 stitches remaining, and depending on your size, you might have up to 9 stitches remaining. But at this point, your hat is done, and we just have a little bit of finishing left to do. So we're going to trim the yarn here. I'm just going to leave a tail of maybe 6 to 8 inches so that we can weave in the end. And then I'm going to need my tapestry needle over here. So with your tapestry needle, you just want to make sure that the eye of your tapestry needle is large enough that you can easily get the yarn through. Since we are using a chunky yarn here, you're going to want to make sure that eye is a little bit larger. You know, typically they come in a pack that have different sizes. So this one works pretty good. It was a little tight, but I got it in there. And then the yarn is coming off of my needle in the back here. So I'm just going to start with this stitch on the front. And I'm just slipping that tapestry needle or yarn needle into the stitch purlwise and taking it off. Purlwise, taking it off. We can tug on the yarn, flip it over to the other side, and slip those stitches as well, and off. So once that's done, we just need to get rid of our tail. So I like to go right down through the center and pull it through to the inside. And I always like to just double check the outside to make sure that I've pulled the tail all the way through, which I have done. And then you will just weave in your end, and you're going to do that on the inside. With the chunky yarn, I like to split the plies here. I find that it's just a little less noticeable from the right side, and it also locks the yarn into place a little bit better. You can do it with other weights of yarn too, but especially with the chunky yarn, it's very easy just to split the plies. Let's see, here we go. I'm splitting the ply just like that. And so you'll just weave in a couple inches of your tail. And then we can give that a little trim. And you're going to do the same thing here at the beginning. We can remove our stitch marker now. We don't need that. This tail's a little short, but that's okay. We'll make it work. So when it comes to the tail at the beginning, when you're knitting in the round, you often get this little, well, not often, you do get this little stair step here, because when you're knitting in the round, it's like a spiral that's stacking on top of each other. And so we started here and then came around, and had we kept knitting, well, I mean, we did knit this way, but you end up knitting on top of those stitches, so it makes a spiral. So you get this little sort of stair step. It's not that noticeable on this little swatch here. Maybe if I hold it like that, you can more see. So I like to use my little tail here to sort of close that stair step. And so what I'll do is, here's my stair step here. I'm going to take my needle and just come kind of right to the right of where my slip knot is and give that a little tug. I feel like that already looks better. And then we're just going to come back down through a stitch here over on the left. And if you just give it a little tug, now we've cleaned up that little stair step issue. And now we can just bring our tail into the inside of our hat and weave in that remaining end. And again, here my tail's a little short, so we're just going to do a little bit of weaving in on this sample. Give that a trim. And that's it. And that would be your hat. So let me find the picture again. So that's it. That's all that there is to this hat. It's really, really cute. It's very, very easy to make. And I think that you'll really enjoy making it. And so I don't see any questions popping up. So I just want to remind everybody really quick, if you haven't done so already, be sure to go ahead and download that pattern. It's in the link. Or it's in the description. There's a link wherever you're watching. We've dropped it into the chat box, and you'll also see the QR code there on your screen where you can take a picture of the QR code, and that will take you right to the pattern as well. If you do decide to knit this hat, I would love to know about it. We obviously we're on social media, and so I would love it if you did make one, if you would tag us on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us there at the Knitting Circle. And we also have a project gallery on our website. And that's a really fun place just to go look for inspiration anyway, because you can just upload your photo for this project or any knitting project you're working on. Then you can also look through the other projects that other people have made too. And it's just really inspiring. People have made some really, really cool stuff. But that's also a really great place to share your project with us if you aren't a user of social media or you don't feel like tagging us on social media. Be sure to check out that project gallery. It's a lot of fun. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed learning how to knit the steps of the Delightfully Darling baby hat. And like I said, I hope that you go forth and make one for someone you love. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see everybody again soon. Happy knitting.